Picture this, September 1943 on the Mediterranean island of Corsica. A 21-year-old Czech engineer and diver named Peter Fleig arrives under cover of darkness at an abandoned German barracks in Bastia. He's been summoned on a top-secret mission. Inside, 3 SS lieutenants stand guard over 6 heavy metal crates, boxes containing an estimated 20 million pounds worth of gold bullion, jewelry, and precious artifacts looted from Jewish communities in North Africa. The treasure needs to be moved to Germany, but Allied air superiority and partisan ambushes have made land transport impossible. The planned naval convoy has already departed without them. They're trapped on an island with a fortune in stolen gold and nowhere to go. So they make a decision that would spawn one of World War II's most enduring treasure legends. They'll hide it underwater and come back for it after the war. Fleig, the diver, is ordered to sink the crates in the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Corsica. He carefully notes the coordinates, allegedly written on the back of a photograph belonging to one of the SS officers. Then the war ends, the officers disappear, and the treasure remains hidden. For nearly 80 years, treasure hunters, divers, and investigators have been searching the waters around Corsica, the deserts of North Africa, and everywhere in between for what's known as Rommel's gold, a hoard of Nazi loot worth hundreds of millions today. Some say it's buried in the Sahara desert, where Rommel's Africa Corps retreated after defeats at El Alamein. Others believe it's in underwater caves near Bonifacio. A few think it made it to Germany and is hidden in abandoned mines, and some believe it was all a hoax from the beginning. Today, we're diving deep into the mystery of Rommel's lost gold, a tale of Nazi plunder, wartime chaos, suspicious deaths, and treasure that may or may not exist. Before we can understand the treasure, we need to understand the man whose name became attached to it. Erwin Johannes Eugen Rommel was born on November 15, 1891, in Heidenheim, Germany. He joined the German army in 1910 and distinguished himself in World War I, earning the Pour le Mérite, Germany's highest military honor. But it was World War II that made Rommel a legend. In February 1941, Hitler sent Rommel to North Africa to support Italy's failing campaign against the British. Rommel arrived with a relatively small force, initially just 2 divisions, and immediately went on the offensive. His tactics were unconventional, aggressive, and brilliant. He moved with speed and deception, outmaneuvering larger British forces. The British troops he fought came to respect him enormously, calling him the Desert Fox for his cunning tactical abilities. Unlike many Nazi commanders, Rommel had a reputation for fighting a clean war, treating prisoners humanely, and refusing to execute captured commandos despite Hitler's direct orders to do so. For 2 years, from 1941 to 1943, Rommel's Africa Corps fought back and forth across the deserts of Libya and Egypt. He captured Tobruk, threatened the Suez Canal, and came within 70 miles of Alexandria. At his peak, it seemed Rommel might actually drive the British out of Egypt and capture the vital oil fields of the Middle East. But Rommel's fortunes began to turn in late 1942. At the Second Battle of El Alamein in October and November 1942, British General Bernard Montgomery decisively defeated Rommel's forces. Then, in November 1942, American and British forces landed in Morocco and Algeria in Operation Torch, creating a second front behind Rommel. By May 1943, Rommel had been recalled to Germany. The Africa Corps surrendered in Tunisia. Over 275,000 German and Italian soldiers became prisoners of war. The North African campaign was over. But before the collapse, as Rommel's forces retreated across North Africa, something valuable disappeared. Or so the legend goes. Here's what we know for certain. In 1942 and 1943, during the German occupation of Tunisia, SS units systematically looted Jewish communities, particularly on the island of Djerba. SS units under Walter Rauff looted Jewish property in Tunisia. Rauff was an SS officer and Himmler's confidant who wanted to apply Holocaust methods to North Africa. Under his direction, thousands of Tunisian and Libyan Jews were persecuted, sent to labor camps, and their property confiscated. The looting was systematic and brutal. Gold, jewelry, artwork, ancient manuscripts, and other valuables were seized from Jewish families, synagogues, and businesses. Rommel's unit supposedly acquired more than 20 million pounds worth of Nazi gold, as well as other precious items taken from Jewish people on the island of Djerba. But here's where history and legend diverge. Was Rommel actually involved? Michael Fitzgerald and Jean-Christophe Caron argue that such stories are better described as Ralph's gold. There is no evidence that Rommel was involved. According to Karen and Jörg Milner, the legend originated with an SS veteran who produced a false treasure map after the war. Rommel's name became attached simply because of his fame as commander in North Africa. Modern historians emphasize that the looting was carried out by SS units, not Rommel's Wehrmacht forces. Rommel himself had a complicated relationship with Nazi ideology. He wasn't an early Nazi party member. He reportedly reacted angrily when he discovered SS atrocities. He would later be implicated, though probably falsely, in the plot to assassinate Hitler and forced to commit suicide in October 1944. Nevertheless, the treasure became known as Rommel's gold, probably because his name was more famous and marketable than Walter Roff's. The legend stuck even though it likely isn't accurate. So what actually happened to this plundered treasure? The most detailed account of the treasure's fate comes from Peter Fleig, a 21-year-old Czech engineer and diver who worked for the German military in 1943. According to accounts published decades later, Fleig was reassigned to the Italian port city of La Spezia, where he was tasked with keeping the port free of sea mines and salvaging damaged vessels. Then came September 16, 1943. He received covert orders from a captain by the name of Ludwig Dahl to travel by motorboat with full diving gear to the island of Corsica. He was to keep the orders secret and, upon completion of the mission, destroy the dive gear and any written evidence. Fleig arrived at Bastia, Corsica, under the cover of darkness, and was taken by Captain Dahl to an all but abandoned German barracks. There he was introduced to 3 lieutenants, Gunther Krantz, Hans Schaub, and Albert Hofmeier. The 3 lieutenants had a problem. They were guarding 6 metal crates containing looted treasure, gold, jewelry, and other valuables. Captain Dahl and his lieutenants had been tasked with escorting the stolen treasure to the heart of Germany. Their plan had been to take crates by truck up through Italy, but Allied air power and frequent partisan ambushes made it too risky. They had then received orders to take a sea route instead, and then to join a convoy headed to La Spezia. When they arrived, however, they discovered the convoy had already left. Stuck on Corsica with no way to transport the treasure safely, the officers made a fateful decision. They would hide it and retrieve it after the war. Fleig was ordered to take the 6 crates out into the Mediterranean and sink them in a location that could be found later. The crates were dropped to the bottom of the ocean off the coast to be relocated after the war. According to legend, coordinates found written on the back of a family photo belonging to an SS officer who was imprisoned in Dachau after the war appeared to highlight a spot less than half a mile off a beach close to Bastia. Fleig completed his mission. The treasure was hidden. The officers went their separate ways, planning to return after Germany won the war. But Germany didn't win, and recovering the treasure became far more complicated. The story of what happened to Peter Fleig after the war is murky and contradictory, but fascinating. According to some accounts, Fleig was captured and imprisoned. While in a prisoner of war camp, he met an SS officer named Schmidt, who had been one of the guards transporting treasure from Tunisia. Schmidt allegedly had maps showing not just the Corsica location, but also 2 other treasure caches, one near Salzburg, Austria, and another in Viareggio, Italy. Desperate to secure his release, Fleig allegedly shared information about the Austrian and Italian treasure locations with camp authorities. American Captain Breitenbach followed the maps and allegedly found paintings by famous masters in an abandoned barn near Salzburg and paper money in Viareggio, Italy. In exchange for this information, Fleig was released, but he kept the Corsican coordinates secret. That treasure was his retirement plan. According to accounts from the 1950s and 1960s, Fleig returned to Corsica and began searching. He hired a lawyer named Feller and assembled a team of divers, but their searches did not go unnoticed. Feller allegedly received a threatening note. "Mr. Lawyer, I do not advise you to interfere in the story of Rommel's treasure. Few killed. This gold is our. Don't put your nose on Corsica, your friends." Who sent this note? Surviving SS members? The Corsican Mafia? It was never determined. Then came a series of suspicious deaths. In 1952, a local diver named L.A. and lawyer Cancellieri chartered a yacht to search the area where Fleig had been diving. At the exit from the port, another ship accidentally crashed into their yacht. Months later, L died under unexplained circumstances during a dive. Shortly after, Cancellieri's car lost control and rammed a brick wall at full speed. He died instantly. Were these murders, accidents, warnings? No one knows. Fleig himself eventually disappeared from the historical record. Some accounts say he gave up the search. Others claim he continued looking until his death. His ultimate fate is unclear. But the legend of the treasure only grew. Over the decades, numerous expeditions have searched for Rommel's gold in various locations. The Corsica searches the extreme conditions of the desert, with its shifting sands and confusing landscapes, would have been an ideal hiding place for treasure in North Africa, but most modern searches have focused on Corsica, where Fleig claimed to have sunk the crates. The waters around Bastia and Bonifacio have been extensively searched. Divers have explored underwater caves, grottos, and possible hiding spots. Some have found WWII era artifacts, bottles, metal canisters, wooden crates, but nothing that definitively proves the treasure exists. In recent years, Josh Gates and his Expedition Unknown television crew searched Corsica, exploring sealed grottos accessed through deep wells, diving in underwater chambers, and investigating the locations pointed out by people who knew Fleig. They found interesting artifacts, but no treasure. The North African theory. Some researchers believe the treasure never left North Africa. According to the theory, Rommel buried the gold in secret locations in the desert to prevent its capture by the Allies as his forces retreated from El Alamein westward through Libya. The Sahara Desert would be an ideal hiding place, vast, remote, with shifting sands that could bury evidence for decades. But searching thousands of square miles of desert for buried crates is virtually impossible. The submarine theory. One fascinating variant suggests the treasure was loaded onto a German submarine. According to this theory, Rommel ordered the gold transported from Tunisia by camel to a remote North African coast, where it was loaded onto inflatable boats that rendezvoused with a submarine. Where the submarine went is unknown. Some believe it headed to Germany, and the treasure was hidden in abandoned mines. Others think the submarine commander deliberately sank the crates in an underwater cave near the rocky coast of Corsica in the Bonifacio Strait, planning to retrieve them later. There's no concrete evidence for any of these scenarios. The shipwreck theory. Some say Rommel himself was not directly responsible for the looting. The spoils went from North Africa to Germany, first stopping in Corsica. However, the ship supposedly sank. No one knows if this was a deliberate move, so the Germans could recover it after the war, or simply an accident. If the ship sank accidentally, the treasure could be scattered across the Mediterranean seabed, possibly broken apart and buried under sediment. Not everyone believes Rommel's gold exists at all. Serious historians have raised substantial doubts about the entire legend. First, the origin problem. The legend originated with an SS veteran who produced a false treasure map after the war. Post-war Europe was filled with con artists selling fake treasure maps to desperate people or gullible treasure hunters. Was the original map legitimate, or was it a scam from the beginning? Second, Fleig's credibility. Peter Fleig's story is the foundation of the entire legend, but we have no way to verify most of his claims. He allegedly shared the story decades after the war, when many details couldn't be checked. Did he actually participate in hiding treasure, or did he invent the story based on rumors he'd heard? Third, the suspicious timing. Fleig's account emerged in the 1950s and 1960s, precisely when treasure hunting and WWII adventure stories were extremely popular. Books and movies about Nazi gold were bestsellers. There was financial incentive to create or embellish treasure stories. Fourth, no physical evidence. Despite decades of searching, no one has found any part of this treasure. No gold bars, no jewelry, no artifacts that can be definitively linked to the Tunisian looting. Investigators suspect that after such a long period of time submerged in the sea, the steel boxes may have disintegrated, meaning the cargo is probably hidden under the seabed. Fifth, alternative explanations. Some of the Tunisian loot was likely spent by the SS on black market supplies. Some may have been shipped to Germany through other routes and absorbed into Nazi financial systems. Some may have been stolen by individual soldiers and never recorded. The treasure doesn't need to be hidden in one dramatic location. It could have been dispersed through dozens of mundane channels. Sixth, the Rommel connection is false. As historians have documented, Rommel's name became attached simply because of his fame as commander in North Africa, not because he was actually involved in the looting. This raises questions about the entire narrative. Whether real or not, the legend of Rommel's gold has had significant cultural impact. In Ian Fleming's 1963 James Bond novel On Her Majesty's Secret Service, 2 divers are supposedly killed while searching for Rommel's treasure. This reference in a James Bond novel introduced millions of readers to the legend and gave it mainstream credibility. Rommel's treasure was a subject for pulp movies of the 1950s, but it is all but forgotten today compared to other WWII treasure legends like the Nazi gold train or Yamashita's gold. Television shows like Expedition Unknown have dedicated entire episodes to searching for the treasure, taking viewers to underwater caves in Corsica and interviewing locals who remember the treasure hunting expeditions of the 1950s and 1960s. Books like Peter Fleig's The Mystery of Rommel's Gold, The Search for the Legendary Nazi Treasure, have attempted to compile all known information about the searches, though historians criticize Fleig's tendency toward sensationalism. The legend persists because it combines everything we find irresistible: buried treasure, Nazis, wartime secrets, mysterious deaths, and the possibility that someone somewhere might still stumble upon hundreds of millions in gold. So does Rommel's gold actually exist? Is there really a fortune in looted Jewish treasure hidden somewhere in the Mediterranean or the Sahara? The honest answer is probably not in the way the legend describes. In 1943, during the German occupation of Tunisia, Nazis reportedly stole a large amount of gold from Jewish people on the island of Djerba. And this part is historically documented. SS units under Walter Rauff looted Jewish property in Tunisia. The systematic plundering of Jewish communities in North Africa really happened, and it was a genuine atrocity. But whether that looted treasure was consolidated, shipped to Corsica, hidden underwater by Peter Fleig, and remains findable today, well, that's where the legend becomes questionable. According to Karen and Jörg Milner, the legend originated with an SS veteran who produced a false treasure map after the war. The Peter Fleig story may be partially true, completely true, or entirely fabricated. We simply don't have enough verifiable evidence to know. What we can say is this: Rommel's treasure is far less well known than the sensational Nazi gold train, and for good reason. The Nazi gold train legend had multiple witnesses, physical evidence, and recent investigations. Rommel's gold has one man's uncorroborated story from decades ago and lots of speculation. If the treasure exists, a huge salvage effort would be required if the treasure was to ever be found, given that any containers would likely have disintegrated after 80 plus years underwater. Perhaps the most important thing to remember is that this isn't just a treasure story. It's a story about theft from Holocaust victims. Any gold or valuables that were looted from Jewish communities in Tunisia belong to the descendants of those families, not to treasure hunters or governments. The search for Rommel's gold continues, driven by hope, greed, and the enduring human fascination with hidden treasure. But whether there's anything to find remains one of World War II's most debated mysteries. Thank you for watching. If you found this deep dive into Rommel's lost gold fascinating, please subscribe for more World War II mysteries and let me know in the comments. Do you think the treasure exists? If it does, where is it hidden? I'd love to hear your theories. Until next time, remember, not all treasure legends have happy endings, and sometimes the greatest mysteries are the ones that remain unsolved.